okay if I record this interview?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. The interview of Neil LaCasse, did I pronounce that correctly?
LaCasse, yeah, that's
LaCasse,
fine.
okay. Today's date is April 11th, 2016. Neil is a survivor of both the 1993 and 2001 attacks on the World Trade Center. I understand this could be an emotional topic. If you do not feel comfortable answering something, please let me know. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
I graduated Wheeling College and went to work at various other jobs before a friend of mine told me they were hiring down on Wall Street and asked me if I would be interested, and I said yes, I would. I interviewed and got a position, and then 4 years later, we moved into the World Trade Center as a company. I started to work for a company called Euro Brokers, and I was a short date, fixed date Fed funds trader. I also did some repo trading and some currency trading as well. 1993, we were working, and it was about, I guess, 1 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, something like that. When I was about to leave the office, I had an early day, and I heard an explosion, and it shook the building. And I thought I saw a flash out the window, and I said, oh my, maybe a transformer or something blew up. And as I was walking out into the hallway, there was a lot of gray smoke starting to billow out of the doorway, the stairwells.
How old were you?
Then, excuse me?
How old were you?
I was 41, and a friend of mine's wife, who was working there, just came back from an ectopic pregnancy, and she was petrified. And she asked me to please hold on to her as we descended the stairways. And I said, sure. And another young board boy was with us. And I said, you get in front of Patty, and I'll be behind her, and I'll hold on to her, and you just keep walking. Because once we got into the stairwells, there was no lighting. And all you could see in front of you, anytime there was a door open, was black acrid smoke, which I later found out was the smoke from the cars that were burning down in the parking garage. It was the plastic portion of the cars, the bumpers and things like that, and the tires, that were burning, and that's what was causing all of the black smoke. And the stairwells acted like a chimney flue. It just billowed right up from the substation. There was 6 floors below, at least 6 floors below the trade center. So that was difficult to get out. And all I can remember, Patty saying, Neil, please don't let me go. I said, Patty, I got you. Don't worry about it. It's just 8 steps, make a left. 8 steps, make a left. And that's how we descended the stairway.
That's amazing.
And then when we got down to the lobby, it was filled with smoke. I could then at least see like my knees and my hands, and but I couldn't see anything else. And the guy's going, okay, keep moving, keep moving, keep. I'm going, where? Which way? He's going, go out this way. And I couldn't get the voice to what he was telling me.
Yeah.
And he said, just bend down, man. You'll get under the smoke. And I did, and I bent down. The smoke was already in the lobby, was already like waist high. So if I bent to my waist, I could then see where I was going. So that was a big help.
So do you think that surviving the 1993 attack definitely helped you with surviving the 2001 attack?
Oh, without a doubt.
Do you think that
it's funny? It's funny that you would ask that question, because the kid that I took with me, the young board boy that I took with me that morning, was the broker in 2001 on 9/11 that said to me, Neil, we're evacuating the building. And I just looked at him, and the look in his face, the tone in his voice, and the determination just said, okay, let's go. I trusted him completely, because nobody ever called me Neil on the desk. I had 20 nicknames.
Oh my gosh.
And the fact that he called me Neil, and he looked me straight in the eye, and the voice that he used, I was like, okay, this is serious.
Yeah.
And just the tonal inflection in somebody's voice, you know whether they're kidding around or you know whether they're dead serious. And that was the way it went out that day. And as soon as he said that, we got in a stairwell with a desk full of people. And we said, okay, come on, let's go. We can do this. And it was like the old Catholic school fire drills. Everybody got in line. The nuns lined you up, and you just put your hand on the shoulder of the person in front of you, and you went down the stairs.
So, in your opinion, if it wasn't for the 1993 attack that prepared you for the 2001 attack, do you think that you wouldn't have made it during?
No, I think I was determined enough, and I think I was lucky enough. I think God was sitting on my shoulder and just said, "Neil, you got to get your ass out of the building." And I think the fact that I was in '93, it wasn't a tough choice. When TJ said, "Neil, we're going," and that was it. It was bang out.
Yeah.
And in retrospect, in afterthought, I mean, there were a couple of All-American lacrosse players on my floor that never got out. And why would God let this 40-year-old, overweight, bad knees, ex-rugby player, why would he let me get out? And these guys were younger, in their prime, fit, still playing ball, and they never got out. So I had to live with that for a long time and question that for a long time.
So this is definitely a question that you don't have to answer at all. Do you ever feel guilty that you made it out while some other people, maybe your coworkers or some other people, didn't?
Absolutely. It's called survivor guilt. And I know that for a fact because I've been to some psychiatrists and have talked about it.
Can you please give a detailed description of how you spent the morning of September 11th, 2001?
Okay. Started out, got into work at about 7:15, and was watching my desk and the cash desk trading with London. It was about midday in London, and you pick up a vibe as to how London's trading, whether the market's going up, going down, and what the big banks in London are doing. You pick it up, and you that's why you get in early, so you can set your priorities in order for your customers and kind of get a tilt to the market and steer them in the direction they need to go. So that morning, I guess about 8:40, a big explosion, and guys are jumping up down the other end of the room. When you're in the World Trade Center, it's a whole acre of floor space that is just jammed with phones and desks and trading desks. And it's, you know the guys that are in each desk, and you know the desk heads and friends. And I walked down to the other end of the room, like, what the hell is everybody looking at? And that's when I saw a lot of smoke, a lot of papers, and some fire coming out of World Trade One. And then, after a few minutes, I just said, I'm going back to my desk, and I went back to my desk, and I was trading, and I had taken an order for a bank and missed the trade. He called me off the trade. It was a substantial amount of money, and I was angry. I also tend to drink a lot of coffee in the morning, so I had to use the facilities. After missing the trade, I said to my backups, I just said, watch my phones, I'm going to the bathroom, I'll be back. And that's when I met TJ Marsonis on the way out, and that's when he said, Neil, we're evacuating the building. And I said, okay, fine. And I just left everything, personal, my wallet, everything on the desk. It just didn't matter. I'll get it. I always thought I would come back and get it some other time.
Yeah.
And
what floor were you on?
84th floor of Tower 2. When you see the film of the plane crashing into the second tower, that engine and wing went right through our floor.
Oh my gosh.
The engine, I believe, went through the 83rd floor, which was Fuji Bank, and then the wing and parts of the wing and the plane came through our floor, and we lost 62 guys that morning.
I was about to say, did most of your coworkers make it out with you?
Uh, I was going to say most of them got out, but 62 never got out. Some of them made poor choices and went down a different stairwell or got caught in an elevator, which I knew that you never do after 93. You never get in an elevator in an emergency situation. You always find a stairwell.
Yeah.
Because the electricity gets cut off, you're trapped.
So you ran down all those stairs?
Yes. I got to on the 44th floor of World Trade 2 is what they call a sky lobby, and it's where you would transfer from the first 44 floors to go up to as high as 105.
Yeah.
And at the 44th floor, there was a man with a bullhorn, and I wanted to hear what he was saying because I just run down 40 flights of stairs, basically. Moving very quickly and keeping everybody in order and keeping order on the floor, on the stairwell. Told the women to take off their high heels. We would, buy them new ones. Don't worry about it. Just get rid of them. They're slowing you down, which means they're slowing everybody else behind you down.
Yeah.
So we told them to take them off and throw them in the corner, and they'll all get new shoes. Don't worry about it. And they did. Girls were great. They were awesome. They really were. And, everybody was very apprehensive, especially the people that had been through it in 93. But the people who had been through it in 93 were the calmest because we could see the lighting and all of the upgrades that they did after the 93 bombing went into effect. The stairwells were well lit. There was proper ventilation. There was nope. You knew where you were going, and you got there quickly. So I got down 40 flights in probably 10 minutes. And when I got to the 44th floor, the man with the bullhorn was making an announcement, and he said, "Building 1 is experiencing difficulty. Building 2 is secure. If you wish to return to your place of business, you can do so by using the elevators in the sky lobby." And I just looked at one of the guys I was with, and I said, "Let's go. We're out of here." And we jumped right back into the stairwells because we were getting pushed further and further out onto the floor. And we had to, kind of fight to get back into the stairwell. Once we got in the stairwell, we got down to the 41st floor, and that's when the second plane hit.
Did you have any... I'm sorry. Okay, did you have any suspicions that this was a terrorist attack at the time, or you just weren't thinking about it?
Absolutely not. I thought, when it first happened, I thought a plane hit World Trade 1, and I didn't know that it was a big plane, because the side that we were on, World Trade 2 is south and east of World Trade 1, so you really couldn't see the gaping hole up around the 100th floor. You couldn't see it. All you could see was papers flying out of the windows, a lot of smoke, and some flames. And then you started to see the people starting to jump. And that was horrific. That was horrible. And you think back on it and you go, they didn't have a choice. They were either going to fry or they were going to jump. And hopefully, they would land and they wouldn't be hurt. But that we know doesn't happen.
Yeah.
When you panic like that, there's nothing else you can do.
Yeah. When you got out of the building, what were you thinking and where did you go?
Okay. I exited the building, the main door.
Okay.
The bodies hitting the courtyard. And then you could hear it. It was a loud boom when a body would hit the courtyard. It wasn't like a quiet little thing. It was pretty loud.
Yeah.
And we exited and went up past the church, up past Broadway. We went up to Broadway, and we started to make our way towards the East River. because that was a meeting spot. Whenever there was an emergency, our desk was supposed to meet at a certain spot.
Mm-hmm.
And I turned around and I looked at the building, and I said, we got to get a quarter of a mile away from here at least. If this building falls over, it's going to fall a quarter of a mile. We got to keep going. We got to get the hell out of here.
Yeah. Oh, what the hell happened?
Your call cannot be completed.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, it's okay. I don't know what happened. It failed.
I don't either. It's probably my phone.
I don't know. It's fine.
We started walking up towards Midtown, and we were walking through Chinatown, and my idea was to at least get to Penn Station, because I could get to Penn Station and then walk out through the tunnels in Penn Station and get to Long Island and get home. I was too afraid to go on the Brooklyn Bridge. I feared that was set with explosives. Because once we got outside, you started to hear, the second building got hit. I thought when the second building got hit on the 41st floor, I thought Tower 1 fell into Tower 2. I thought that's what it was. Because I got thrown across, back and forth. The building shuddered so that I got thrown across about a 12-foot stairwell.
Oh my God.
Two or three times. And that's what I thought happened. So then when we got down, I turned around and I saw the blue flame, which was either aviation fuel or some of the gas that was in the building. And I knew from my old high school days that the blue portion of the flame is the hottest and it will melt steel. And that's why I said we got to get the hell away from here. So we were walking up through like Chinatown when the building came down, and I didn't even have to turn around. I knew exactly what happened. People were screaming and crying and covering their face, and I just kind of nonchalantly turned around and just saw the building, disappear.
How was your family made aware of the situation, and did they know that you were okay?
Well, one of the guys had a cell phone.
Oh, okay.
I didn't have a cell phone at the time, and I just kept hitting redial. And I finally got through to my wife.
She was probably so relieved.
I told her I was okay. I was out of the building, and that I was trying to make my way home to her. I was away from the building. In '93, I had stopped to help set up a triage, and she was afraid that I was going to stop and try to help people again. Not today, honey. I'm on my way home. And the funny thing is I was home by 12:15 that day.
Oh my gosh.
A guy, a taxi cab pulled up right around 20th Street, and three photographers jumped out, and they started going down because the cops wouldn't let them go any further downtown. And I grabbed the guy and I said, "Hold on, I got a couple of fares for you. We're gonna go. I got." And he was an immigrant who didn't speak well, and he said, "I go home. No more fares. No more fares. I go home. I'm scared. And I go, "What do you mean you're scared? I got three guys. We're gonna go out to Long Island." He goes, "I live on Long Island. I go." And I just pinned him up against the car. And I called the guys I was with, and I said, "Let's go! This cab's taking us home." And we got in a cab, and we told the guy, whatever your fare is, we're giving you $300 right now to take us out to Long Island, and it's cash money. Don't worry about the police. Don't worry about speeding. Just do what we tell you to do. And he took us up. He took us up the East Side Highway, and we went all the way up to the Throgs Neck Bridge and the Triborough Bridge, and we came into Long Island that way. And I was in Garden City, which is a town north of me here, and that was the first stop. And the guy that I was with drove after he hugged and kissed his wife and the kids, and we stood around for a little bit. He drove me home to my wife. high school at the time, and they were pulled out of class, and they weren't told anything. They were pulled out of class, and one of the kids got a hold of a remote control and turned on the TV, and then the kids knew what the hell was going on.
Yeah.
And they didn't know whether I was alive, dead, under the building, or whatever. They had no idea.
Yeah. Is there a specific moment you would like to talk about? Or did you cover it all?
To talk about what?
Just that morning. Like that day. Let's say that day.
When I got home.
Yeah, when you got home.
My wife rushed up to me and gave me the biggest hug and kiss you could ever imagine.
Mm-hmm.
And my father, who was a World War II veteran of the Battle of the Bulge,
mm-hmm.
Which was a very specific battle where a lot of American men died. He was wounded in that, and he just put his arm around me and he said, "Now you know what war is like." And I'll never forget it. And we both just cried and hugged each other. And then I found out that my brother got out of my brother was in building 1.
Oh my gosh.
And that he got out, and my brother-in-law, his brother-in-law got out as well. And they were in Brooklyn. They had jumped on the back of a moving truck, and they went across the bridge that way. And then luckily enough, he got a ride home. He got a cab or a car or something.
That's good.
And he got home. So that was spectacular. And that was pretty much, down and dirty. That was it. That doesn't go into a lot of detail.
Mm-hmm.
If you have more questions, like I said, when we were on
I have a lot more questions.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go right ahead.
What were your feelings the first few days after the attacks?
I was pretty...
Oh, I'm sorry, you cut off. Can you repeat yourself, please?
Can I repeat it?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
The first couple of days, I was pretty much in shock.
Uh-huh.
I think I was in shock, and all I did was watch the TV, the replays, and got phone calls from classmates, from people who worked in the industry. The banks that I talked to were calling to see if I had made it out and was alive. Friends from around the country were calling my house, and between my wife and myself, we fielded most of the calls. And as you can imagine, there was a little bit of alcohol involved.
Yeah.
On a regular basis.
Yeah.
And we just I gotta say, I was probably in shock, and then people started calling and say, "Did you see this guy? Did you see that guy? Have you been in touch with this guy?" And I couldn't understand how these guys didn't get out of the building or were lost or couldn't be found. They were probably in a hospital somewhere. I'm very optimistic about everything in life.
Mm-hmm.
And my attitude was, he probably got hit in the head with a piece of falling debris, and he's in a hospital somewhere, and he doesn't know who the hell he is. And we're going to find him, and everything's going to be okay. And other people just, said, "No, he didn't make it. I know he didn't make it." He was behind me, and I was one of the last guys out. So you start getting stories like that, and then you start hearing stories, and then for the next 2 years, you just went to wakes and funerals and funeral masses. And every time they found somebody's remains from the pile, that was good. That was closure for the family.
Yeah.
That they were able to at least say goodbye.
Mm-hmm.
And hold the wake and hold the funeral mass. So that was a good thing.
In your opinion, has the media portrayed the event accurately?
Well, it depends on who's putting the spin on it, isn't it? Like anybody else. The media will spin it, like the movie act that we did it ourselves, we did it, that the government did it, is absolutely ludicrous.
Yeah, I understand.
Ludicrous.
So, how did the event impact your life in the long run? What is there anything that how does it still affect you today?
I still have PSTD.
Mhm.
I get weepy. I see. Are you familiar with the movie Saving Private Ryan?
No.
Okay, you're familiar with the Kevin Costner movie Field of Dreams?
No. I don't watch many movies. I don't watch many
Okay.
movies.
Think of an emotional movie
Mhm.
where the good guy wins in the end, and um, I cry. All right, you know what? When you see on TV where a father comes home or a mother comes home from serving in the military,
Yes.
and the kid doesn't know and is surprised.
Yeah.
It's like a big surprise on a kid. I cry at stuff like that.
Me too.
I get very emotional. I get very emotional at things like that, and I didn't used to be so emotional.
Mhm.
I mean, I think that's touching, and I think it's great. And I would probably laugh or clap,
Mhm.
and now I just cry. Now I just cry.
Yeah. And that's
So
understandable.
I got some issues I got to work out.
No, that's understandable because now you know what it's like when it's relieving, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Did you Okay, so how often do you think about the attacks? Do you think about it every day or many times a day
No,
or only like once a week?
no,
No.
no. Something will trigger it. There's sure as hell is enough of it on TV all the time.
Yeah.
The news stations, whenever news is slow, somebody will put a picture of the plane hitting the building, and that definitely triggers it.
Yeah.
Or someone will say something about a guy who used to work at Cantor Fitzgerald, or
Mhm.
name of a bar where we all used to go, things like that.
Yeah.
There are certain triggers that will shoot me right back to that morning, or
Mhm.
shoot me back to some of the guys that didn't get out of the building. Golf trips that I took with guys.
Mhm.
I interviewed and hired guys who didn't get out. I told guys to come to our company. It was a good company, and they didn't get out. So guilt,
Yeah.
remorse, because now I'm at their funeral and I see the wife and the kids, and I'm like, if I would have told Charlie not to come, he wouldn't have been there. So I had to work through things like that.
Yeah.
And rationalize to myself that it's God's will. It's not because you told the guy to come.
When you were asked to do this interview, what was your initial reaction?
So the interview with you?
Yes.
Absolutely. I would tell anyone my story of '93 and my story of 2001, because if it helps future generations like yourself to understand that was a brutal act of war on civilians. That was not two armies fighting.
Yeah.
That was a brutal act of terrorism in both instances. In '93, I know only 8 or 12, or I don't even know how many people got killed, but there wasn't a lot, and that was a lucky, very lucky thing, because in '93 they were supposed to drive that truck that was laden with all of the explosives. They were supposed to drive that truck to the south, the northwest wall in the garage, and that if they had done that, that would have blown a hole in what they call the slurry wall. were built on um, like wasteland, and the water from the rivers would seep in if it wasn't built properly. So they had to make an invention and build a slurry wall. And what the truck was supposed to do was park up against the wall and blow a hole in the wall, and in that all of the water rushing in from the Hudson River would have taken that tower down.
Okay.
That's what the plan was in '93, and that didn't happen. Thank God. They chickened out about halfway down the third ramp. They got spooked, and they just put the truck in park and ran, and it blew 3 floors down, and it blew 3 floors up.
Oh my gosh. When talking about it, is it like therapy for you, or does it have like the opposite effect?
Is it cathartic? Sometimes it helps. Sometimes it gets me morose. I think it depends on the mood that I'm in before I start talking about it, and it like this. I'm great with it because I know I'm helping to educate another generation of people.
Yeah, you definitely are.
You know what happened that day. Like a lot of kids not kids, young people your age, don't have no idea what 9/11 is all about. I mean, you know that it happened, and you've read it in the history books, and you've seen whatever Hollywood has put cabled together. You've seen all of that, but you don't fully understand it until you've talked to a couple of people. And I probably lost that day not only the 62 co-workers, but I probably lost up to another 150 friends that worked in the other buildings for other companies, and even people I know who lost people down in the Pentagon. That was very sad.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Have you returned to not the towers, but like the area or the memorial after the attack? If so, please.
No.
You have not. You haven't gone to the memorial or anything.
I went there once, and when they had the Towers of Light, they used to have a ceremony where they would put these 2 huge Klieg lights up, and it was supposed to symbolize the towers. And I just got way too emotional and had no interest of going back anymore.
Yeah.
I still have to reconcile. Like people say, go to the museum. It's well worth it. That's shit that I got to get in my head. I went to see the USS New York because the hull and the keel were made of steel from the World Trade Center. When they built that ship in the shipyards, I believe it was somewhere down south where they built it. I know they used steel in the actual building of the ship. I know they used World Trade Center steel, which was another thing for months and months and months. We were right downtown. We were one of 5 companies that didn't relocate, and every day we went to work, they had barges sitting in the East River, and these cranes would drop massive girders of steel into these empty, like bathtub barges, and it would just make a tremendous racket, and you would jump. The noise was that loud, and then you realized what it was. You knew exactly what it was. The steel that they were bringing off the pile, and that just made you sad as well.
Do you think that a new World Trade Center should have been built?
Yes.
You do?
Yeah, I do. I don't think you can let the terrorists win by bringing down the towers and not putting something back in its spot.
Yeah.
I think America was absolutely 100% correct in rebuilding.
Hmm.
Just to stick it to them and say, screw you. You know, this is our country. You're not going to defeat us.
Yeah. Um. So, how do you feel when you see someone in public who looks like they are from the Middle East?
I'm sorry. What did you? I didn't. Could you repeat the question? I didn't really hear that.
Yeah. So, how do you feel when you see someone in public who looks like they are probably from the Middle East?
Sometimes I feel okay with it, and sometimes I get angry.
Mhm.
I still have lingering feelings,
Yeah.
and it's kind of funny. I don't know if your dad told you. I took a job and I drove a small school bus for a while,
Mhm.
and they were Muslim children.
Mm.
And I was looking out the window when I was learning the route and learning that these kids were all Muslims. And I just looked up, and it was one of God's teaching experiences to me.
Yeah.
I looked out the window, and it's like 6 o'clock in the morning, and I'm looking out the window, and I'm looking up at God, and I'm just saying, you got a real sense of humor there, pal.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, now you got me driving. They're all for two, and now you got me driving their kids.
Oh my God.
And yet, there were definitely a lot of hate in me before,
Mhm.
but to see these children get on the school bus and the way their mothers give them a kiss was just like the way your mother gave you a kiss in the morning before you went off to school, and the
Mhm.
way you hugged her, and you see these things, and I think it was done on purpose by God for me, um, simply because it was one of His teaching moments in my life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Do you have a fear of flying?
No.
Yeah. I didn't think
Nope.
so.
Get on a plane, no problem.
Do
As
you
long as they do I think the NTSA is keeping us safe? Not really. Not really.
do you still work?
I've been retired from Wall Street for 3 years.